listening to the Reasons Podcast. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
What's up, people? And welcome back to another episode of the Reasons Podcast. I hope you guys are chilling. I hope you guys are good. I don't know how long it's been since the last one, like 2 weeks, which is a pretty good schedule. I was hoping at the beginning to do 2 weeks between each one. But yeah, it's been a pretty stressful couple of weeks. Not stressful. I mean, maybe I'm actually delusional. I like to not attribute stress to myself because I feel like it makes me better if I'm just not stressed. But it's probably been, like, if I'm being honest, a stressful couple of weeks because coursework is due. It's exam season for lots of people, and there are lots of things that need to be done, like admin wise and writing wise. So to give you a rough description of some of the days that I've had, there have been days where I've had to go to like 4 meetings in one day and write 500-600 words for my essays. But then there have been days where I've not gone to any meetings at all, and I've just been here in my room and written 2,000 words in a day. So every day there is something going on that's quite a lot. But I thought I'd make time to jump on and make a little podcast because I was just having the craziest internal debate about the greatest of all time and the best player of all time. And just a quick side note, actually, I'm happy that that's basically the topic of the podcast, right? So you guys get a quick gist of what's going to go on. But I wanted to quickly make a side note about the launch on YouTube, which has actually gone relatively well. Like it's really cool actually. All the podcasts from Spotify and Apple Music or Apple Podcasts have just been ported over to YouTube. So they're all there. They just have the cover art. So if some of you just prefer YouTube, then I guess you could go there. If you have like YouTube Premium or something like that, and it's just easy for you to use that, then that's there. All of the episodes are there. And the process was actually kind of annoying. The place that I was hosting my podcast before, I think they do it as a ploy to like keep people or not lose people from hosting on their service. Like I said, hey, could you help me like port over to YouTube? They were like, yeah, we'll set up a ticket and get back to you in a couple of days. I thought, what do you need a couple of days for? You just port it over. Like every other service just ports it over. But for some reason they were taking forever. I'm so happy to not be using their like software anymore. Like they don't even support video. That's why I switched in the first place. Like they have a video editor, but you cannot upload video, which makes no sense. But yeah, the port over to YouTube, very successful. Everything seems to be working fine. I hope that there are no copyright issues now that I'm not on that platform, but we will see, I guess. And also when I had them all ported over, I listened to the first episode again, and oh my goodness me, I don't know why. Like it's crazy because that was not that long ago. That was probably like not even a year ago that the first episode would have been, and I was so nervous. Like I'm quiet. I'm like, I just feel like it's not me. It's like I'm so shy. But I guess that's how it is when you start something for the first time. I also think that I used to do them, like all the podcasts at the beginning of the year with new housemates who were next door. And I don't think I was comfortable enough with just talking like to myself. Because that's basically what it is. It's like I'm talking to myself. So the first episode is quite funny to listen to because there's like absolutely no personality. Or there's personality, but there's no enthusiasm. Like there's no, like oomph to it. But yeah, that was quite funny. But anyway, on to the topic, which I think is such an interesting discussion that I also think people are not having. Right? I think that there's a mix up in the conversations that we're having when we talk about sports players and the greatest of all time, because I think half the people who argue for somebody to be the greatest of all time are actually arguing that this player is the best of all time, like the best player. And then the others are arguing that, no, I'm not talking about them as a player. I'm talking about their greatness overall. And I think there's a distinct difference between best or like ability in a sport and greatness in that sport. And the thing that spurred this was I was watching, terrible, I know. I woke up and I went straight to YouTube Shorts. I watched one proper YouTube video and then I was straight to Shorts. But I saw this thing about Roger Federer, who is my favorite tennis player of all time. He is the reason that I started playing tennis, which was my first sport. Literally got a tennis racket. I think I was like 7 years old, maybe 6 or 7, something like that. And I play with a one-hand backhand because of Roger Federer. I slice basically every backhand because of Roger Federer. I try to drop shot everything because of Roger Federer, right? So I have some bias, right? I appreciate that he is my favorite player of all time, but I also believe he's the greatest player of all time, right? And there were lots of like discussion in the debate, in the comment section about him compared to Rafael Nadal and compared to Novak Djokovic. And even a couple years ago, I think I conceded that Novak Djokovic is the best tennis player of all time, right? He has won the most Grand Slams. I mean, I can even pull it up. He's won the most Grand Slams. He's probably got the highest winners percentage of anyone who's played as many games as him. And I mean, yeah, see, he has 24. I'm fairly certain Nadal has 22 and Roger has 20, I think. But yeah, when you watch Novak play, he's just unbelievable. He's so good at everything. He's just unreal, right? He beats Roger in the head-to-head. Nadal beats Roger in the head-to-head. And still, I would argue that Roger's the greatest of all time. And I was thinking, why do I think that? Like, what is it about Roger that I think makes him the greatest, even though I've already conceded that he's not the best? And it comes back to this distinction between best and greatness. And this is something I've been saying for so long when it comes to basketball, with the whole LeBron James and Michael Jordan. And I'll come back to tennis after I talk about basketball, because basketball is a better way to explain the difference between greatness and best, I think. Because Michael Jordan has a much better argument for greatest player of all time than he does for best player of all time. Now, that's due to the circumstances in which he played, right? And the actual results and consequences of his career. And the same with LeBron James. LeBron James has a much better argument for being the best player of all time than the greatest player of all time. So if you think about Michael Jordan, right? All of the things that people argue for when they say that he's the greatest are the things that are conducive of greatness, right? He's won every time he's been in the big games. The way that he plays is conducive of big moments, right? So he gets to the NBA Finals. The way he plays is, give me the ball, I'm going to go score, and I'm going to win the game for us, right? That is conducive of greatness, right? That creates great moments. The shot over Elo against the Cavs, the switch hand layup, like the way he plays, right? It's conducive of these great moments, these great iconic things, right? The way he plays might not be conducive of winning as many basketball games as possible, which can be seen in the fact that he didn't make the NBA Finals any more than 6 times, right? He lost in the first round a few times. I mean, I don't even know. He must have lost. He didn't even make the playoffs some years, right? So the way he plays is conducive of these really great moments, right? And his stature, his image is also impactful outside of what he did on the floor. And that's why greatness is different from best, because best is just about what you do on the basketball floor, right? But greatness is what you do on the floor and what impact that has on everything to do with basketball, your brand, your image, what you've done for the game. And if you think about when Michael Jordan was playing, people often say that basketball was dying around that time, right? It's the same thing with baseball and the steroid era with like Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. Everybody says that they saved baseball because it was dying. So these players are great because they saved the game. And it's the same with Michael Jordan, right? The NBA's ratings were down and he came in and he was this really cool guy who everybody liked. His shoe brand was iconic. His free throw line dunk was iconic. His mid-range game, his post fade, these are all iconic things, right, that saved basketball, that inspired people to play basketball, right? So Michael Jordan has all of these iconic things about himself in a time where people weren't really that iconic, right? I guess it's much easier now to see stars, and I'll get onto this when I talk about LeBron James. But Michael Jordan kind of transcended the time that he played, because it was almost as if social media was the way it is now back then, but just for him. Like, you didn't have much. Obviously, I wasn't around back then, but the fact that we don't know much about Clyde Drexler, or we don't know much about I mean, even Charles Barkley, like, we didn't know much about him as a player. It's like very difficult to be like, oh yeah, he did this, this, and this. You know him as a personality now, right? And all of the other players like Ralph Sampson, Hakeem, all of those players from back then in Michael Jordan's era, even John Stockton, Karl Malone. Like, Karl Malone's the third all-time scorer in the NBA history, and we don't know much about him as a basketball player or even as a personality, right? So Michael Jordan's greatness almost transcended that. It was like he was the NBA, and he didn't have many people to compete with, right? It was he was the NBA. It wasn't like, oh, who else is going to be the face of the NBA? Who's going to take the crown? Blah blah blah. Like, we have this rubbish with LeBron James now. It was, hey, this is the guy. You know, even in a league that had Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, you didn't hear too much about them in terms of the face of the NBA, the greatest of all time, because like they were great players, but Michael Jordan was the guy. Now, LeBron James's play is otherworldly. I don't even know how to describe LeBron James as a basketball player, because there is no one way, right? And this is what I was thinking, right? LeBron James he could go and play point guard, give you 25, 12, and 6 rebounds. 25 points, 12 assists, 6 rebounds, right? And you'd be like, wow, that's a really good point guard. We could win with that. But then you could say, hey, LeBron, go play the 2. And he'll go out and go score 45 points, have 4 assists and 6 rebounds. And he can go do that. But then you could say, all right, LeBron, go play your natural position, go play small forward, but play as a point forward, right? And he'll go out and he'll have 32, 13, and 12. And you're like, oh, that's a player we could win with. That's a really good player. And you say, all right, LeBron, you're going to go play the power forward, and you're going to go get to the rim all the time, and you're going to guard a slightly bigger guy. And he'll give you 28, 15 rebounds, 8 assists. You're like, damn, that's a great player. We can win with that guy. Like, he's a really good basketball player. We can win with that guy. And then you can say, hey, LeBron, I know you don't really do this often, but go play the 5 and go guard the bigs, right? You know, you're not going to have many perimeter touches, but hey, you can work in the post. You know, you could do a little bit of bully ball. You can get to the free throw line. And he'll give you, I don't know, 20 points, maybe 14 rebounds, maybe 5 assists, 6 assists. And you say, oh, that's a good player. We can win with that guy. So LeBron James is almost 5 players in one, right? He's 5 guys. And this is why I say LeBron James's play is so conducive of winning basketball, right? Because think about the playoffs. LeBron James could come out in game 1 of a playoff series and play a point guard. He could be like, hey, I'm going to run it this game. All the plays are going to come from me. I'm going to initiate every single action. And the opposition team will be like, well, here's what we're going to do to point guard LeBron James. And then you come to game 2, and in the first quarter, because this is what I think LeBron James, this is why he has not won so much, is because his coaches don't know what to do with him, right? And I'm not saying I know what to do with him, because I don't. I don't think anybody knows what to do with LeBron James other than himself. That's it, right? I don't know if there are any coaches that would understand how to use those 5 players, right? But you have point guard LeBron James in game 1. He gives you 25, 12, and 6, right? And the opposition team are like, damn, we need to stop this. This is a problem for us. We can't have this going on. So they come out with a game plan. And in the first quarter, LeBron's like, oh shit, they're guarding me up. Like, they got me. So then if he had an adequate coach, or if he coached himself and said, hey, look, guys, here's what I'm going to do. Because I knew that they were going to game plan for point guard LeBron. Hey, I'm going to play shooting guard LeBron. And now he's off ball. They don't have a game plan for that. And he drops 45 points in the game. That is the value of LeBron James. Whatever he comes out and does, if the opposition team decides to adjust to it, he can just do something else. And he can do that thing so well. There's no one facet of his game where he's like terrible. Like, if you forced him to do that, he'd be really bad. And this is why I say the difference between him and Michael Jordan is that Michael Jordan could be 1 or 2 guys. He could go out and score a ton of points, right? And he could attract a lot of attention, right? So he could go out and just be an outright scorer, and he could probably rack up a lot of assists as well. And there are probably games where he racked up tons of assists because he attracted so much attention. So he has almost 1 or 2 games like plans or styles of play, but he was so good at them that he didn't need to change. right? If they came out and said, hey, look, we're going to guard you like this because of what you're doing, he would just be better than your game plan. LeBron James could come out, and if they're playing in a way that is perfect defense for point guard LeBron, he's still going to give you 20, 15 assists, 25 points, maybe 12 assists with 8 rebounds or 6. So he's good enough that he could just do what he wants to do, even if you know he's going to do it, right? That's what the best basketball players are. It's like, you might know what they're going to do. It doesn't matter. Like with the whole "la fuck you" three, like, you know he's going to shoot it. It doesn't matter. MJ's post fade, Kobe's post fade, Kareem's sky hook. Like, you know they're going to do it, but it doesn't matter. LeBron James is so conducive of winning basketball that he can just switch to another archetype that is best suited for that game plan and just destroy you, right? Michael Jordan could have a game where he shot poorly because their game plan was really, really geared towards making him shoot bad shots. And sometimes you're not going to make every shot, right? And LeBron will have games like that as well. But he can just decide, hey, I'm just going to be a point guard this game. I'm just going to facilitate. Or I'm just going to guard the bigs and I'm going to give you something on the defensive end. And that's the difference to me between LeBron and Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's greatness or his ability as a player comes in just his I don't want to use the word aura, but I guess that's the only thing that I can think of, right? Is that he's going to say, give me the ball, I'm going to score. That might not work every time, but when it works, it's so iconic. LeBron James is, what is the best thing that I can do right now for my team? Every time. Every single time. It doesn't matter if scoring 30 points would be a really cool moment. If getting 18 points with 18 assists is the right thing, he's going to do it. That's why you have this whole debacle about, why doesn't LeBron shoot the last shot? Well, if the guy's wide open and he shoots 40% from the corner and LeBron shoots 28% on this mid-range fadeaway, well, he's going to pass the ball. Whereas Michael Jordan, this is why they have worse fourth quarter point stats, right? It's because Michael Jordan's like, well, I'm shooting the ball no matter what. It doesn't matter if there's a better shot. I'm shooting it because I'm him. I'm that guy. So it means he has these iconic moments, right, when they're not actually conducive of winning basketball. Not to say that Michael Jordan shooting the last shot is not conducive of winning basketball. That's probably the best shot you're going to get. But even if it wasn't, he would still shoot it. Whereas LeBron James doesn't have that. He's got this super meticulous, efficiency-based brain or play style. Obviously, I don't know what he thinks, but his play style would indicate that that's the way that he thinks about basketball, is what's the best thing for the team. And that's why he wins so many basketball games. Every single season, LeBron James's team is unbelievably successful, right? In the regular season, in winning games, in even getting to the playoffs or making the NBA Finals. I mean, what did he make the finals? 11 years in a row? 10 years in a row? Something ridiculous like that. And, or maybe not. I don't know. 7? I guess. From 2011 until 2018. So 9 years. Right. 9 years. I think. That's 9. I always get messed up with those things because obviously you have to count the first year and the final year. So it's not just the difference. I think it's 8 years. I don't know. Anyway, right? He made the finals that many years in a row. And don't get me wrong, Michael Jordan probably would have made the finals, 7 years in a row? Or no, 8 years in a row because he took 2 years out. So he made the finals 3 years, took 2 years out, then made it 3 years in a row again, right? So there's a good chance that he would have made the finals 8 years in a row. Maybe the roster would have been different and he didn't make it. But, he still had a good chance to make the finals that many times in a row because he was that good at basketball. But as a true or pure basketball player, I don't see the argument for Michael Jordan being better than LeBron James, right? I feel like to be a better basketball player, you would have to show more, I don't know what the word is, a more complete or full game. I understand that the argument would be that Michael Jordan is so good at what he does that it doesn't matter that LeBron James is better than him at other things. Because the gap in the things that he's good at is so much bigger than the gap in the other areas. Now, I think that that's false, but obviously that's somewhat subjective. Stats will help you a little bit, but I think that's somewhat subjective, right? LeBron James has averaged, 25 or 25 points a game for his whole career. I think MJ averaged like 30. And I think LeBron shoots a better percentage from the field and from three than Michael Jordan. I'm fairly certain. I think I should just put it up because there's just no reason for me to make to just like assume when I could just pull it up. But yeah, so Michael Jordan 30.1 points a game, LeBron 27 points per game. LeBron has more assists and rebounds per game, which makes sense because, as I said, he's more complete player in my opinion. Obviously, their accounting stats like total points and rebounds and assists, those are obviously skewed in LeBron James's favor because he's played so much more basketball. But I also think that attributes or that should be attributed to his greatness because playing that long is great, right? And I guess this is something. I guess we're done talking about best player for now, and we're talking about greatness. LeBron James obviously is not afforded the same capacity to be great as Michael Jordan because he doesn't have to save the league, right? Michael Jordan was in a unique position where the NBA needed somebody to hold up high and say, "Hey, this is the guy," and he filled that role, right? He did a really good job of being that guy, being the marketable guy that everybody thought, wow, this is the face of the NBA. LeBron doesn't have to do that because he's got Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, all of these guys who are also big stars, right? They're not just good players like John Stockton and Karl Malone. These are also big stars. Like Russ is a lot of people's favorite basketball player ever, right? I mean, I have a teammate who started playing basketball because of James Harden. He's his favorite player, right? Even the new guys like Anthony Edwards, like Giannis, Jokic, all of these guys are really big stars. Like LeBron doesn't, he's not able to be nearly as great in the impact sense as Michael Jordan. Nobody will ever be able to be that unless the NBA goes into a massive downward spiral for 20, 30 years and then somebody saves them again. There's just no capacity to be as great as Michael Jordan in an impact sense, right? There's never going to be a new Air Jordan shoe. There's never going to be a first time free throw line, Superman, Jumpman, dunk, right? Those are things that he did first, and the surroundings or the circumstances of the league at the time meant that he could be great. Now, LeBron James, like I said, was not afforded that, but he's great in other ways. He's great in the fact that he's been so good for so long. This is not about whether he's the best player every year. This is about he's been one of the best players every year for 22 years. Now, that's greatness, right? Michael Jordan he played, I don't know, 9, 10 years or something like that. Then obviously retired for good the second time he retired and then came back and he wasn't a bum. Let's not have this whole discourse that when he played for the Wizards, he was a bum. He wasn't bad, right? He just wasn't fantastic, right? He wasn't Michael Jordan. Do you know what I mean? I mean, he at 40 compared to LeBron at 40 is like night and day. It's like, brother, there's a complete gulf in class here, right? But at the same time, Michael Jordan took years out. So he didn't play all those years consistently. So in fact, it even works not further, but more in favor of LeBron James because he's played 22 straight years, playing almost every game because he hardly gets injured. I guess the last few years he's gotten injured a little bit more. But overall, LeBron James' longevity should be an aspect of his greatness. The same way that Michael Jordan's shoe sales and impact that the Jordan brand has had is part of his greatness. So there's a difference here. Obviously, we've spoke a lot about Michael Jordan's greatness and LeBron James' ability. There's a difference here because when people say, oh, Michael Jordan's the GOAT because look at the impact he had on basketball and look at his finals record and look at the moments he had, and then somebody argues with him and says, yeah, but LeBron James can play 1 through 5 and he's averaged 27, 7, and 7 and he shoots a higher percentage than Michael Jordan and he can make threes. Like they're having two different discussions, right? The person arguing for LeBron James, for the most part, most people are arguing that he's the best basketball player of all time. And then the guys that are arguing that Michael Jordan's the GOAT are arguing that his greatness supersedes LeBron's ability, right? It's more important than LeBron's ability. Like greatness is not just about how many stats you could put up on a stat sheet and how conducive you are of winning basketball in the large part if you aren't going to win in the big moments. You know, people will say, "Oh my gosh, LeBron's record in the finals is what, 4-6, 4-7? I don't know, 4-7, one of the two, right? He's lost a lot in the finals, and people say that that's so bad. How could he ever be the GOAT if he's lost 7 times in the finals or lost 6 times in the finals? Michael Jordan never lost in the finals, but he made the finals less. Now, I would like to assume, and this is why I've hated this argument, right? Is that I would like to think that the guy who gets to the final more than the guy who doesn't is a more like a player that's more conducive of winning basketball, right? It's not like in the seasons that Michael Jordan didn't make the finals, he just didn't play. And I think that's what a lot of MJ fans and MJ proponents, they propose that they argue as if he didn't play in those other years. He played, what, 15 years? What, in 9 seasons he just didn't play? That's not true, right? LeBron James has made the playoffs, I think, all but 2 years maybe in his career, 3. Um, and this is why this is going to be like a podcast, because I don't have all the research. It maybe if I made it a YouTube video, I would have done all the research. But for the most part, LeBron James has been in the playoffs almost every single year in his career. Now, further, he's been in the conference finals even more, right? He's been in the NBA finals like half his career. Michael Jordan has not been in the NBA finals half his career. Michael Jordan has not made it as far in a basketball season as LeBron James, even on a percentage basis, right? Because obviously he played fewer seasons, so the counting stats would be a bit unfair in LeBron's favor. But even as a percentage of the years you played, LeBron James has made it to the ultimate goal of making the finals. Well, it's not the ultimate goal, but the penultimate goal, making the NBA finals at a higher rate than Michael Jordan. So although he's won it less, he's got there more. So he's done more winning in seasons than Michael Jordan has. But Michael Jordan fans argue as though he didn't play in those other years. And this is what I mean, is that they are not talking about how good he was as a player when it comes to winning games. They're talking about how great he was in the moments that are attributed to greatness. So when it comes down to it, when they played the Jazz and he stole the ball and he comes down and he makes the shot, right? To them, that is greatness. It's not about how good you are. It's not about whether that was the right play. It's not about whether that's conducive of winning basketball. It's like, wow, that guy just did that. He just went and stole the ball from Carmelo in the post, came down and made a jumper to ice the game, right? That's the stuff that MJ fans are talking about. Now, when I am, as a LeBron fan, what I'm talking about when I say he's the best player of all time is when he guards all 5 guys because he's switching on a possession, then grabs the rebound and comes down and goes into the paint. 4 guys collapse and he makes a behind the back pass to the guy in the corner and his teammate makes a 3. Now, he didn't score, right? So his great moment, obviously what he did is great in this hypothetical scenario. What he did is great, but it's not as iconic, right? Because somebody else scored. So that's the difference, right, between greatness and best, is that greatness is when your moment is iconic, is when you did something that's like, wow, that's crazy. Best is when you do the thing that's most conducive for winning basketball. And LeBron James does that better than anybody I've ever seen play basketball. Obviously, I've not seen everybody play basketball, but it's hard for me to imagine somebody else doing what LeBron James does on a basketball floor. Even though stats don't tell you the whole story, Michael Jordan's stats alone tell you that he did not have the same impact on the floor that LeBron James did with regards to winning basketball, to making the right play. Michael Jordan scored an insane amount of points. I mean, even says here, in his best season, he averaged 37 points a game. That's ridiculous. 37 points a game. And it's not like that was the only thing that he was good at. I mean, even his best rebounding season, he had 8 rebounds per game. And in that same season that he had that, he also had 8 assists per game. So it's not like he's a bot. It's not like he can't do anything, right? But his game was centered around, I'm going to put the ball in the basket no matter what you do, right? And it didn't matter what percentage he did that. I mean, his field goal percentage is overall lower than LeBron James's. His 3-point percentage is obviously lower because they didn't really shoot threes, right? And to be fair to Michael Jordan, it's not that much lower. It's only like 20 points lower. He's at 33%. LeBron's at 35%, so 2%, 20 points, same thing. Um, so LeBron James's his case to greatness is totally different from his case for best player, right? His case to greatness is, look, I've made the NBA finals this many times, right? I am so great that I'm always in the NBA finals, right? It's nothing to do with I played well on my route to the NBA finals. It's the same way that Robert Ory's case to greatness is that he won the NBA finals 7 times. It's nothing to do with how well he played in those finals wins. It's just, hey, I made the finals 7 times. I'm really great. That's iconic. That's an iconic fact about Robert Ory. Nothing about his play is really that iconic, right? Let's be real. He's not that iconic as a basketball player. But as an icon, as a legend, as a great, he's very iconic because he won the final 7 times. Maybe, I mean, that shot that he made, I think he made a shot, three in one of the finals wins that was like a really big deal, right? That's an iconic shot. I mean, even though I don't know what game, what moment, the fact that I even know it, pretty iconic, right? But LeBron James is like, hey, I'm going to be in the NBA finals every year. It doesn't matter who you put against me when he was in the East with the Cavs, right, the second time. It doesn't matter who you put against me. I'm going to make the NBA finals. That's iconic. The fact that it was LeBron James against the West, that's iconic. The fact that the Golden State Warriors had to go get KD to beat him, that's iconic. The fact that he came back from 3-1 down in the NBA finals, that's iconic, right? These are these are his cases to greatness, right? Those have nothing to do. You see, when I just said all of those things, I didn't say, hey, I made the right play. Hey, I only shot threes in this situation because these were the most efficient. No, no, no. It's nothing to do with how good you are as a basketball player or how conducive you are of winning, how many times you make the right read. It's, look, these are the moments. These are the iconic things about me. This is why I'm great. I think Michael Jordan probably has more of those iconic things than LeBron James does, right? Just because of how impactful he was on the game of basketball, how impactful he still is on the game of basketball, his greatness, his profile of greatness is probably more than LeBron James. I mean, his entire career is almost founded in greatness, right? It's not, people don't talk about, oh my gosh, he was such a good player. I mean, before I get cancelled, I'm not saying he wasn't a good player. That's just completely ridiculous, right? But when people argue about Michael Jordan and they tell you about stories about Michael Jordan, these are stories of greatness, right? These are stories of, oh my gosh, I can't believe he did that. Like Larry Bird saying that he's like God on a basketball floor, right? These are stories of greatness. When you hear stories about LeBron James, these are stories about how good he is at the game of basketball. His greatness comes secondary to his just ability as a basketball player. When you see all of these interviews that coaches have about why we can't guard LeBron James, why we can't do this with LeBron James, it's because they say he's just so good, right? It's not that people wouldn't say that about Michael Jordan, but that wasn't the thing about Michael Jordan. With Michael Jordan, it wasn't about how good he was. It was about how iconic and great he was. It was, you can send 2 guys, 3 guys, doesn't matter, I'm going to score. LeBron James is, if you send 2 guys, 3 guys, I'm just going to pass the ball to the guys who are open because it makes more sense for us to win the game, right? So you can see the difference is that Michael Jordan is great in his iconic moments and all of that stuff. LeBron James is just incredibly talented and incredibly smart and incredibly wired with basketball. I guess that's why people always talk so much about LeBron's basketball IQ and they don't say so much about Michael Jordan's because, like I said, it's not that Michael Jordan didn't have those things. It's just not important to his case as a great basketball player. If you were to say, hey, Michael Jordan, like let's say you were like a YouTube basketball account and you made like YouTube shorts and you made a YouTube short about Michael Jordan's really high basketball IQ. No one's watching that because no one cares about Michael Jordan's basketball IQ. If you made one about his switch hand layup and his free throw line dunk and his post fadeaway and his stealing his Karl Malone and he comes down and he makes a shot, that's the stuff that people are like, yeah, that's Michael Jordan, right? That's the Michael Jordan I know. With LeBron James, his case is somewhat different, right? Because you could make arguments, if you are that basketball account, you can make a video about his 3-1 comeback, about he's just always in the NBA finals, about his LeBronto, about his, these things that he did that are great and iconic. But then you could also make one about his IQ and just examine some basketball stuff that he did. And both of them would attract fans and attract followers, right? Because people know LeBron James is both great and good, right? So that's the difference. And I guess harking back to tennis, right? Like I said, I would. The difference between Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer is that Novak Djokovic is not iconic, right? You don't think. I mean, to some people he is, and I don't want to be. I don't want to do a disservice to Novak Djokovic because he's a really great basketball player, right? His greatness is even, you could see it firsthand in the amount of Grand Slam titles he's won. He's won the most. That in itself is iconic, right? But he doesn't have the iconic moments, the things about him that make him great. So Roger Federer, for example, like I said, one hand backhand, everybody knows it. The slice, the drop shot, everybody knows it. The inside out forehand, everybody knows it. And so many kids tried it when they were younger. I mean, I tried it. I used to go to tennis and just drop a ball, run round my backhand and hit an inside out forehand because I wanted to be him, right? Nadal, right? He has the forehand with the grunt, with the swing over his head. Every single tennis coach would tell me, you hit your forehand and you follow through over your shoulder. I wasn't here for any of that. I was trying to be Nadal. I'm whipping my forehand like this, like a lasso, right? Like I'm riding a horse, I'm hitting a horse. Because everybody wants to be Rafael Nadal, right? Everybody wants to be Roger Federer because they're iconic. It's like guys will go out to the basketball court and do the fuck you three. Guys will go out to the basketball court and do a sky hook. Guys will go out to the basketball court and hit an MJ post fade or a Hakeem dream shake. These are the great things. Novak doesn't have any of them, right? He doesn't have these things that you're like, wow, really iconic. Even Andy Murray has more iconic or greatness, maybe not greatness, but more iconic things when you think about him than Novak Djokovic, right? Novak has an insane determination, an insane grit, right? I mean, he was down, 2 sets in, I think he was playing Zverev in the final, and he was down 2 sets to love, and he came back and won 3-2, right? But Andy Murray has that, I'm never, ever, ever going to give up on any point, like demeanor and aura, right? There's obviously, I mean, he's so old now, probably late 30s, right? But there's that point from a couple years ago where he is literally on his last legs, chasing smashes. He's predicting, and he wins the point. The guy smashes his racket. That's one of the most iconic things you can see about Andy Murray ever. And that's when he's late 30s, end of his career. During his career, he had winning Wimbledon. Wait, did he win Wimbledon? No, he won the gold medal. He beat, basically, him and Federer. One of them won the gold medal, one of them won Wimbledon. But the Olympics were in London, or they were in England. So it ended up basically being a Wimbledon rematch. And he won. And it was so iconic because he finally, got his get back. I'm fairly certain it was the gold medal that he won. Let me even check. But yeah, that was a very, very iconic, moment for Andy Murray. I mean, Novak had his gold medal that he'd won basically everything until the Olympics last year. So what were 2025? Yeah. So 2024, he won the gold medal. And that was crazy for him. And it was very iconic because it was like the last thing he needed to win, to basically win everything, right? But it's not, I don't know, it's not iconic, right? Because I don't know if it's because he just doesn't have it, but nobody really seemed to care, other than maybe some diehard Novak fans or diehard tennis fans. And I have to be honest, like I am still a huge tennis fan, and I do still watch tennis, but not nearly as much as I used to. And maybe my bias for Roger and Nadal over Novak has made me not care, right? Maybe I just was like, I don't give a shit because it's Novak, right? But yeah, it was 2012 that Murray won the gold medal, and it was just after, because Wimbledon is like in the summer and the Olympics were after. So obviously Murray had this big heartbreak. He lost Wimbledon in his home country, or no, well, I guess if you count the UK, but he's Scottish. I guess it's the same thing. All the British fans were there to watch Andy Murray win Wimbledon, and he lost to Roger Federer, which was in itself a very iconic win for Roger because I don't know if he had been on a somewhat Wimbledon drought, but he definitely needed it, right? So it was iconic for him to win Wimbledon again. It's his place. It's like he's really good on grass, and it was very iconic for him to beat Murray at home and win Wimbledon again, because that's, like I said, his tournament. I think Novak has won tons of Wimbledon now, but like I said, it's not iconic because Novak doesn't have that. I don't even know what it is. It's like Nadal and the French Open, Roger and Wimbledon. Those are iconic combinations, right? Those are. It just, when you hear Roland Garros, you think Nadal. When you hear Wimbledon, you think Roger Federer, right? So for Roger to win that was, again, very iconic. He won at home or whatever, his most fabled Grand Slam title. So for Murray, it was very iconic for him to win the Olympics, right? To win the gold medal. And Novak doesn't really have a moment like that. Murray had the whole I'm crying like Roger, and like he looked up to Roger, and like it's really innocent and sweet and endearing and great. It's like iconic. It's great, right? Novak doesn't really have that. He was always kind of like the cyborg, the mercenary on the outside looking in. You had the big three, which was obviously Roger, Murray, and Nadal. I say big three, not that they were known as that, but the big three that were really iconic and the fans loved them. And then you had Novak, who was practically better than all of them, but nobody really cared because he wasn't one of those three, right? So, like I said, years ago, I said Novak was the best player that's ever played tennis, right? He's the most successful. He's the most conducive of winning, the same way LeBron James is the most conducive of winning. But he's not great, right? Not great in a descriptive term of his ability at tennis, but great in his moments and his iconic status and his just stature in the world of tennis, right? You've got even like guys like John McEnroe, you'd probably be able to argue are greater in an iconic sense, not greatness overall, because like I said, Novak's winning his Grand Slam titles and his winning of everything there is to win basically is great in and of itself, and that probably holds a lot more weight than McEnroe's moments. But McEnroe is more iconic to some people than Novak Djokovic, regardless of their winning, right? So, like I said, like I've been saying this whole time, there's a huge difference that is sometimes blurred, or the lines are blurred between greatness and just being good at the sport. So yeah, I wonder what you guys think. And yeah, like I just find it so interesting because obviously there is some of my course, like studying philosophy, that like is important here or is relevant here, because we find a lot when we're reconstructing arguments and pitting two arguments against each other or coming up with objections to arguments, that sometimes two people are not really disagreeing, or they're not really arguing about the same thing, which makes the argument seem endless, right? If somebody is saying, hey, LeBron James is the GOAT because he went to the finals all these times, and or not even though he went to the finals all these times, he's the most conducive of winning of any basketball player ever. And then someone's arguing Michael Jordan's the greatest because of all of these iconic moments, the impact he's had on basketball. They're not really arguing about the same thing, right? And because they're not arguing about the same thing, neither of them can really hear the argument of the other because it's not relevant, right? Like if somebody comes to me and says, hey, look, Novak is the GOAT because he's won 24 Grand Slams. And I say, well, Roger's the GOAT because look at all these iconic moments. He's got iconic shots. He's got an incredible relationship with Wimbledon, all of these things. Like hearing somebody tell me he's got more Grand Slams than Roger is not going to change what I think about Roger, if that makes sense, right? Like if somebody is arguing about basketball, they say, hey, look, LeBron James is the greatest player of all time because of how good he is at basketball. And then somebody has an argument with that person and says, no, Michael Jordan's the GOAT because he's this much better at basketball. Now they're arguing about the same thing. They can see reason and they can argue, right? It's the same thing with Novak and Roger. If they're arguing about the greatness and iconic moments, then they can pit those iconic moments against each other and maybe come to a conclusion. But if one of them's arguing about iconic moments and one of them's arguing about just ability on the court, right? You can never really come to a conclusion because you're not arguing about the same thing. your arguments are not relevant to the other person's, right? And we find that a lot when we're writing essays and we're studying whatever, is that a lot of arguments that you find in philosophy are not true disagreements, right? They're not really about the same thing, and therefore it feels like the debate is endless. It feels like an unsolvable argument, right? And yeah, that's why the GOAT debates seem so frustrating, because it feels like there's no release, there's no way to solve the problem. But I think most of the time it's just because people are not actually arguing about the same thing. Like, they both have different parameters, or each person have different parameters about what makes someone the GOAT, and they're arguing on different levels. So of course you're never going to be able to come to a conclusion. That's why ESPN are making so much money from just churning out GOAT debate content with Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, when Mahomes almost won his third Super Bowl in a row. Churning out stuff about LeBron James and Michael Jordan, churning stuff out about Kobe Bryant and his standing in the GOAT debate, or even if Steph Curry had won the NBA title this year, he would be the GOAT. Well, look, you're going to have endless content, and ESPN probably know this, right? You're going to have endless content with these GOAT debates, because you'll have Stephen A on, who Stephen A's arguments about the GOAT status and whatever are essentially all about iconic moments, right? It's all about 6-0 in the final, shot over Elo, post fade, super Jumpman, free throw line dunk. It's like that kind of stuff, right? I mean, one of his biggest arguments against LeBron James is that he didn't ever enter the dunk contest. I mean, what does that have to do with basketball? That has nothing to do with basketball, but he hates him for it. Not hates him, but he gives him shit about it. So Stephen A's arguments are completely and like mostly centered around iconic moments and greatness in that sense, right? Whereas you have someone like JJ Redick, or Nick Wright is really big LeBron fan, or in terms of the GOAT debate, who say LeBron James is the greatest player of all time because he's just good at basketball. Now, you can find tons of people from both camps. Guys like Shannon Sharp, who will argue in the JJ Redick and the Nick Wright camp. And then you'll have some old school guys who will always argue that Michael Jordan's the GOAT because of the impact he's had on basketball. Now, their opinion on his greatness will never change, no matter how many good reads and good decisions LeBron James makes on the basketball court, because that stuff is not important, right? And vice versa. To the guys like JJ Redick, he doesn't care about dunk contests. He doesn't care about iconic shots. He cares about what LeBron James has done on the court. And now that Michael Jordan's not playing anymore, he can't do anything to change these people's minds about who's better on the basketball court, right? So ESPN, hats off to you guys, because you are literally, this fountain is endless. This well is endless, right, of content about GOAT debates. And they know it, right? They know it's crazy. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I wonder what you guys think about GOAT debates and best player of all time, and who you guys think are the best players, maybe in tennis, football, basketball, American football. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I guess it's a little bit different, just talking about sports, which is nice. Like, I love talking about sports, and I've not really incorporated it much into my content. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Reasons Podcast. Make sure to tune into the next episode.